The wife chasing crematorium. The substitute lover trope. Transmigration. My stand in the series employed these popular Chinese boys' love tropes that are fairly new to live-action BL, especially those produced in Thailand. Hello, this is Ineffable Opinions. In this episode, we will discuss those tropes, their origins, and the various ways these have been used in storytelling. As you probably know, my stand-in is based on the Danmei novel 追妻火葬场 by Soi Chien-chung, translated as Professional Body Double. Specifically, it belongs to 188 Nantan, translated as 188 group, where 188 centimeters is the height of every gōng, aka seme. It is a shared universe of novels with characters from one featuring in another, and almost all gōng are very scummy, or red flag, so to speak, at least initially. Trope 1. Wife chasing crematorium. What 188 group novels all have in common is the trope popularly known among English-speaking fandom as wife chasing crematorium. This is a super popular trope, not only in Danmei. This trope is based on the Chinese phrase
追妻火葬场
meaning to chase his wife's crematorium, which is derived from the longer phrase
傲娇一时爽追妻火葬场
meaning Tsundere was on his high horse for a while, now chasing his wife's crematorium. Alternative form of the phrase, as well as the trope, goes like this
追夫火葬场
which means to chase husband's crematorium. This involves scumso, that is the
受け
chasing after his gōng aka seme, after initially abusing gōng's love. The trope involves the love interest being initially cold, or even cruel, to the protagonist who is in love. This continues until all of that love is gone. By then, the love interest would come to his senses. He would be eager to seek forgiveness for his past actions and chase after the protagonist. In some cases, the love would be lost irrevocably. This is the case when the protagonist is dead, hence literal crematorium. There are also works where the love interest is discarded altogether and protagonist moves on to someone new. Rarely, there are works where the protagonist is the scum. In 188 group novels, there is a common, basic structure of wife-chasing crematorium trope. Step 1 would be so loving gōng, but gōng would treat so terribly. Step 2 would be gōng going too far. So would be fed up and leaves gōng, one way or other. Now gōng realizes that he has been in love all along. Step 3 is gōng regretting his past actions, and he chases after so. To put it short, groveling ensues. In the final step, gōng and so gets back together. Gōng dotes on so, and the couple face other challenges together that could come from family or villains. Finally, a happy ending. The obvious question is, why is it so popular? Fans are in it for the melodrama. They want to watch scummy gōng going too far, the relationship to break down, and then for the gōng to grovel, to make amends through various selfless deeds, until they re-establish the relationship and trust as much as possible. All of those stories end with a happy ending, with the gōng endlessly doting on so, and the relationship having turned wholesome. Next is the substitute lover trope. Other than the previous trope, Professional Body Double and its adaptation My Stand-In also involves the substitute lover trope. Substitute lover trope involves, usually the gōng, having a
白月光
literally, white moonlight. The term refers to a person whom gōng, in this case, loves a lot but can't reach or touch. This is usually his first love and has a profound impact on him. White moonlight itself is a common trope. Taiwanese BL series VIP only and Japanese series
Sahara Sensei と Toki-kun
used white moonlight trope in the classical East Asian four-act narrative structure,
kishōtenketsu
which involve Act 1 in which the characters are introduced. In second act, the couple grows close and their relationship blooms. This is the development stage. Third act is one with the twist. This is where white moonlight appears and confesses love. Conclusion is the fourth act and involves white moonlight getting rejected and the couple getting a happy ending. In the typical setup that My Stand-In follows, Ming's white moonlight, Tong, is unattainable. So, Ming finds a substitute lover, Zhou. The relationship between gōng and his substitute lover is usually just physical. This is because gōng doesn't plan to move on from white moonlight. he stubbornly carries the torch. Gōng doesn't want to betray the pure feeling he has for his white moonlight by giving any of his love to anyone else. So, Gōng ensures that no love leaks out of the dam he has built to store his love for the white moonlight. And he would act cold towards his substitute lover. From Gōng's POV, this is a kind of emotional fidelity which he extends to his white moonlight, a tribute of unshakable love. The substitute lover sometimes resembles white moonlight in some way. This could be physical similarity. In fact, the first ever live-action BL Summer Vacation 1999 based of Hagio Moto's manga, The Heart of Thomas, plays around with this trope. More recently, Playboyy sorta lampshaded it with the twins premise. The similarity between white moonlight and substitute lover could be that of spirit too. A recent example of this is from the Japanese BL.
恋をするならに度目が上等
aka Love is Better the second time around, wherein Professor Takashi sleeps with his assistant Shiraishi Yudo because the assistant, or his desperation at least, reminded him of his white moonlight Miyata Akihiro. There is only one live-action BL that actively subverted this trope, the heartbreaking Taiwanese BL History 3, Make Our Days Count. The series introduced a doppelganger of Yu Shirgu, Xiang Haoding's white moonlight, a perfect candidate for substitute lover trope. But instead of pursuing it, the series subverted the trope. There are usually two outcomes to the substitute lover trope. First one is that the gōng falls for substitute lover. In some cases, this involves white moonlight turning into rival or villain. Second possible outcome would be gōng and his white moonlight getting together. In this case, substitute lover turn into rival or gets a lover of his own. Japanese BL, Ichika no Junie, first ever live-action adaptation of a BL manga, employed substitute lover trope in one of its finest executions. It is so brilliantly done that I can't think of anything topping that, unless fourth volume, particularly the case-solving plot involving the photography club of Toki-kun series gets live-action adaptation. Third trope is transmigration. Basic premise of professional body double, and its adaptation My Stand-In revolves around transmigration of soul. One of the most popular Danmei, Modalzushi, and its adaptation, The Untamed, involve this trope. Maybe I should say, setup, instead of trope for this one. Transmigration involves soul of a character getting transferred to a body different from his own at the time of a triggering event. It can involve own body, different time scenario with the character moving ahead or backward in his own life's timeline. When past is involved, it is likely a do-over story, where the protagonist gets to redo his life, change his love interest, make different life choices, or take a different course of action. Parallel trope is the reincarnation trope, that involves completely different lifetime, but with retained memories of past life, or multiple past lives. This trope was employed in the Thai BL Until We Meet Again and the Korean BL Choco Milk Shake. Another form of the transmigration trope involves different body in present or near-present timeline. This has the character's soul entering a different person's body. The character gets involved in his previous circumstances, but now in a different capacity. An underrated Danmei adaptation from 2016, Revive, went to town with this setup. My Stand-In also follows this different body but same timeline setup. Different body and different life is another form of the transmigration trope. In this case, soul enters character in a book, game, or simulation, and would be primarily tasked to thrive there. One Room Angel explored a type of badro, a liminal stage between death and rebirth with this setup. With transmigration setup, it is common to have transmigrator retaining some connection to previous life. However, there are also works where transmigrator's previous life doesn't matter at all. These tropes in My Stand-In. These three tropes are explored to varying degrees and with different levels of efficiency in professional body double. In its live-action adaptation, there are a bunch of limitations. Primary one being the cultural differences. Audience of a Danmei novel are already familiar with these tropes to some extent. But that's not the case with live-action audience, who primarily consume sweet BL from Thailand that don't use these tropes much. Another is the koo-jin problem. Branded pairs are very important to Thai BL industry, so they cannot have two different actors playing before and after transmigration. Actually, this was not impossible, but there hasn't been any precedent. Also, The Untamed enjoyed success by having shòu jan play pre- and post-transmigration wei wuxian. I wish they tried two koo-jin, Up Poom and Up Winner, since they already have Winner playing pre-transmigration zhou. Maybe that's asking for fan wars and pitting actors against each other. Third limitation is one that comes from medium. You can't have long monologues in live action. This deprives audience of the inner workings of characters' minds. Most of the motives, especially Ming's trouble with warring desires of his heart, are inaccessible to the audience. Since we are on the topic of Ming and his motives, there was an interesting trope that my stand-in played with in an earlier episode, the trope of taboo gifts. In my stand-in, the gift was a watch, a taboo in Chinese culture rising from thongzhong, gifting watch, and songzhong, burying the dead, being homophones. Another taboo gift is white lilies associated with death and funerals. It had appeared in Japanese BL Summer Vacation 1999, as well as in Forbidden Love. Coincidentally, both of these also had substitute lover trope and death as theme. Ming's characterization as a young master, coming from money and prestige that breeds arrogance and being low on empathy, was a highlight of his cruelty as a 188 group gōng. While redemption of scum gōng is what 188 group offers its audience, it is not necessarily the case with live action. Moreover, the novel is steeped in Confucian values. What it means for Zhou to have a mother now is dealt through his selfless gratitude and the filial piety he offers her. Also, body is only treated as a temporary shelter for the soul for most part when transmigration trope is involved. The same is the case with his old body. A proper funeral for that body is what he owes his own parents for having given flesh and blood to the body which housed his soul previously. Remarkably, in the novel, his house figures prominently, both as an inheritance and as an enduring connection to his own parents, a bond more precious to him than the bond he had to his old body. The execution of the transmigration trope over the substitute lover trope in my stand-in is fleshed out and nuanced. For example, the substitute lover trope is not only a recurring trope, but also an inverted one. That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for listening.